We're going to switch gears for a minute, talk about the long tail. So first, what the heck is it? Well, the idea behind the long tail is that with the creation of the internet, we now have segmentation in the population more to a greater degree than we ever have. And to be honest, it didn't just start with the internet. I would argue that it first started coming around with television. We started to have more and more channels and more niche stations. Whereas once we only had maybe one sports channel, a couple news channels, now we have several news channels. You can have your conservative news or your liberal news. You can have your hockey channel, you can have your baseball channel or your NFL channel, and so on and so forth. So why do we have all this segmentation? What does that have to do with the long tail? Well, the idea behind the long tail is basically started with popular goods. Look at music as a great example, and it's the first one in the article that we're going to read. So that article talks about how Walmart, for example, it's the largest brick and mortar music retailer in the world, and I think iTunes only just passed it as the largest music retailer in the world. So Walmart moves a huge number of CDs and music. So Walmart actually will only stock a CD that's going to sell about 100,000 copies or more. If you think about it, that's a staggering number of copies. In fact, there's only about 1% of all music actually sells that much, according to the article that I will have you read after this. So that's a staggering number. If I am interested in maybe an indie music or an author that's just not as popular, a musician that's not as popular, how the heck am I ever going to find their CD if Walmart, the biggest retailer, doesn't carry them? Well, into this void steps the internet. Whether your hobby is something really unique or your taste in music is unique, there's a good chance with the millions and millions of people on the internet, there are others like you. People have often said you can find a fan club for anything online. Well, it's pretty much true. The idea is that websites are so cheap, it's such an efficient vehicle of communication, that we can really meet anybody quite easily and organize. Even if it's just a discussion board or a forum, we can very easily start groups and connect with people who share similar interests. You only need to take a look at Facebook groups for a moment to see this in action. So sure, there's groups that millions of people are in or lots of people like. Fans of NFL, for example. Lots of people watch the NFL. It's the most popular sporting league right now. It's pretty easy to find someone who would be a fan of the NFL. But how about a fan of a particular arena football league? Well, now the segmentation gets smaller. How about fans of a particular player on an arena football league? Now it gets narrower and narrower. Music, again, the same thing. We can start with the biggest pop hits and move all the way down into the smallest of genres, the tiniest of niche medias. So the idea is that the internet actually provides a marketplace for this long tail, really the people furthest away from the bulk of the user audience. So we now have a place that we can sell and cater to the previously unreachable audience. It would be absolutely inefficient to try and market to long tail users otherwise, to sell niche media, simply because the amount of users who would purchase it is way too insignificant for a single location, a physical location to handle. But on the internet, there's no such thing as physical location. We can stock anything with our basically virtual inventory. Now my challenge to you is twofold. There are two articles on Blackboard related to today's lesson. One is about the long tail in general. The other one is a refutation of the long tail, basically saying the effect isn't really real and trying to counter the idea that long tail is actually a factor in economics. So take a look at those and see what you think. What I'd like to know is, does this have any effect for developers? Do we care about these niche genres, or should we be developing for a broad audience? So be prepared to talk about this next week's class. In class on Thursday, we're going to discuss the long tail phenomenon and see, really, does it affect developers at all? Or should we still be focusing on the largest possible audience we can, which is the exact opposite of the long tail. So take a look at those assignments. They'll be posted on Blackboard under the assignment folder. Our other topic this week is also internet related. and it's particularly pertinent to us since we've just had 2 online classes. There's a link. Your final reading for this homework this week is a Slashdot post, which you'll see an article regarding online courses being the wave of the future, in fact, the way of the future, and also the discussion forum there. And I strongly encourage you to read it for some really good insight. Anyhow, the author of the article basically says, in the future, we're only going to have classes online. There's no need to have classrooms anymore. It's an interesting idea, especially since we've just spent a couple weeks doing disconnected or virtual classes, online classes. Is it indeed the wave of the future? I mean, every school, including UNH, is really excited about it, trying to integrate it more and more into their curriculum, trying to find ways to utilize online courses. The author of the article believes that online classes will completely replace the in-person classroom experience. So my question for you this week is this indeed the future of academia? Or is it just a passing trend? Or perhaps it's somewhere in between? What we're going to do is create a thread on the forum where I want discussion this time as opposed to just individual posts. The idea here is I'd like you to bring up your take on online classes. Do you think this is going to replace, augment, or really just be a trend that's going to go away soon? Tell me the value you see in online courses and whether or not they have really any place in college or higher learning. So I'll have that thread started on the forums. Make sure everyone posts there this week to get credit. And please encourage discussion. Respond to other people's posts. Don't just put an opinion and go away. So that's a good segue to the assignments for this week. Besides this lecture and your course reading, your textbook reading, please take a look at the Longtail article, the Longtail Refuted article, the article on online education and the accompanying Slashdot thread, as well as the forum posts on the bulletin board. Make sure you participate in that this week, please. So then the bulletin board material is the online education article. The Longtail stuff will be for class next week. And now that we've gotten Blackboard to actually accept and use our quizzes, we're going to once again have a quiz on this week's material, all the stuff in the lecture, textbook, and those 3 articles online for next Thursday. So once again, make sure you've read the text, heard this lecture, and checked out those 3 articles in the bulletin board and the quiz for next Thursday. We will be back in class next Thursday. Thank you very much.